Okay then, it's not really a system review, is it? It's a system update thingamajig something, I don't know. Anbernic RG350. My previous video was a review of this thing as it came out of the box, but as promised, here I am demonstrating it, or something, with new firmware and some newly installed emulators. Some came with the firmware, some of those I tinkered with and replaced with newer versions. Applications largely the same, a few other bits, input testers. That one, it's got a rumble feature in this, and that tests that and it works. It's not really the kind of standard you're going to be used to from a PlayStation or whatever else. It just makes it vibrate, probably drain the battery quite rapidly. Yeah, I'm not gonna demonstrate it because I care about battery life. You've got power modes. This one, it's proactive or something, and uses as much CPU power and whatever as you need at the time. Performance mode just gives you full power all the time, and power save mode throttles things back, I guess. Really, I'm not concerned with those things. Let's see. Games. There were no games on this firmware as it arrived. I won't say out of the box. It wasn't in a box. It's software. I've added these myself. I will give you some links to places where you can get software. Quake 2 is a bitch to install. There are instructions. They're not necessarily easy to understand until you realise that to make this run you need to get two separate packages from two separate places. One is Quake 2 SDL, which is like the executable, if you like. Install that, run that. Then when you've done that, you will need some... it comes in a package, which I will link to, and there's some other stuff in that, and there will be some instructions somewhere that will tell you where to put that in relation to this file structure and stuff. It's confusing as hell. It took me ages. Do it at your own risk. I'm not going to give instructions because I don't want you to blame me if you mess it up, because I messed it up and had a very hard time with it. But it does work. When you've done it all, I will show you. And when I say it worked before, but what you have here is control on both thumbsticks and fire your weapon with your shoulder button there. I never played Quake 2. I am not, you know, I don't know how this game, I don't know anything about it really. I was a fan of Doom. Quake, never got into, because I wasn't a PC gamer, you see. Doom was on all the consoles. Quake 2, well, it didn't do so well on the consoles, did it? Don't know. Oh, well, I've never been here before. I don't know what's happening. I don't know who these people are and why do they want to kill me. They're just not friendly, are they? Whatever. Quake 2. It works. So. Arkanoid. It's Arkanoid. It works just fine. That's really all I need to tell you. Emulators. Okay. Much of them I showed you already, many of them. There are some that I've added myself and some that I've updated. PSX for all. We looked at that in the previous video and it was quite limited. This version of this emulator came with this firmware. It is updated from the previous firmware. I tried several other versions of this emulator because this particular one, while it works, still doesn't have the analog stick control. Okay, so here we are. This is one, I tried this in the previous video and it wouldn't run, and now it runs. But we don't have manual, we don't have analog stick steering, which is a shame. I had hoped that we would. I tried 3 or 4 different versions of this emulator, and I had all kinds of problems. One just plain didn't work, maybe more just plain didn't work. Another one had the rumble feature going. It was just like buzzing constantly. It wasn't doing it like in response to the game. It was just permanently buzzing, which was not what I wanted at all. I didn't even bother to find out if the thumbsticks worked, because I wasn't going to play like that. So for the moment, with the emulator that comes in this pack, whoops, shortcut, yeah, compatibility is vastly improved. Lots of lots of games. Come on, how do we that button? Yep. Lots of games work that wouldn't work on the previous version. Compatibility is hugely improved, speed is good, just no analog stick compatibility yet. What else did we look at previously that has improved? Pico Drive. Right, okay, the Pico Drive that comes with this firmware, it was no better than on the previous firmware. However, I went to one of the websites, and I don't remember which one it was, and downloaded an updated version. And 32X. Well, we only really need to look at one game to well, you might want to look at others, but I'm only going to show you one. If you want to find out how it plays the other games, buy one of these and install it yourself. But you know, now isn't that a vast improvement? You can tell right there it works, and it does work. Actually, I am going to show you another. You know, I've just done the gears on this, and I can't remember what the control is for the gears, so that's not going to be great. This is going to be... how do we put it in gear? That's not it. I don't know how to put it in gear. Okay. Ah, that's okay. Right, up and down to change gear. I should have known that. Anyway, that runs really nicely. So, another thing that works that I have not been able to make work on any version of the Pico Drive emulator on any other system, but that is now working on this and making me extremely happy. This. Every time I've tried it on another emulator, it's glitched out. The sound isn't great. Yeah, okay. It's a trap. Shut up, get on with it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll do that. We probably won't. There you go. Anyway, getting to grips with the controls is, you know, it's designed to it's designed to work with a Mega Drive pad, and here I am with not a Mega Drive pad, and it's kind of fiddly and awkward. But that's, you know, neither here nor there. It works, and it works really well, and I'm really pleased about that, because I like that game and I haven't played it in quite a long time. So yeah, 32X is running very well on Pico Drive. Now, something I didn't know about is this here Genesis Plus GX. Now, this is an updated one which I installed myself. I don't know if the one that comes as standard does this, but it will run Mega CD games. What it won't do is run Mega CD games as standard without you doing some stuff, because you've got to add the Mega CD BIOS files, and they have got to be named correctly, and I'll tell you what they've got to be named if I can just engage my brain and tell you. That one, Gen Plus BIOS, and you've got to name them lowercase BIOS underscore uppercase C. Look, can you see? You can read that. So you've got your English, your Japanese, and your US BIOS files. You've probably, if you're into emulators and you've emulated the Mega CD before, you've probably got these BIOS files. If not, download them from somewhere. Google is your friend. Don't ask me where to get them. Firstly, I can't remember, and secondly, half of these places got shut down by Nintendo. Anyway, if you've got them, you've got to rename them to this, and you've got to store them in this folder that I just showed you. And once you do that, the emulator will run Mega CD games. What was I playing? I was playing, yeah, I don't want to play that now. What? I was playing quite a few games actually. I don't know, I think it does. Does it run ISO games? No, I tried installing some that were just ISO and they didn't work. It needs bin and Q. And if you want the music, you need your, what is it? The audio file, digital CD audio file, I forgot what they're named as. But anyway, bin and Q, and it will run. There are still websites that have those. I'll demonstrate. Let's put it. This is my go-to Mega CD. Yeah, okay. Yep, Mega. Yeah, start your engines and try and remember what the controls are for them. There we go. I do really like Mega CDs. It is such a shame that they didn't receive the support they deserved. Developers, publishers, whatever, were really bloody lazy and just ported standard Mega Drive games over to CD and maybe added a CD audio track and perhaps an extra level here and there, which was such a massive waste of potential when they can do stuff like this, and even more stuff like Soul Star, using the sprite scaling and the mode 7. This isn't using the mode 7. It demonstrates the sprite scaling really well. They're a powerhouse. They were absolutely bloody brilliant, and couple of Mega CD with a 32X. Really, I would have loved to have seen Sega release a console that was a combination of Mega Drive, Mega CD and 32X all in one, make it affordable, stuff the Saturn, you know, and that could have kept them going until they could have done a Dreamcast or something. I mean, there was so much potential. They had great stuff, they just made a bodge of it in the way that they handled it all. Shame, but there you are, Mega CD on this here little handheld. It's great. Love it. You just got to put the BIOS files in the right place. Other things. This I installed myself. This did not come as standard. Handy 320. It's like a port, or I don't even know if they had to modify it to run on this. It ran on one of those dingo things. That's what it was coded for. What do we gonna checkered flag? I have my go-to games for the various systems when I'm demonstrating stuff, and do we yeah, that. Okay, can't remember the controls. There we go. Again, another sprite scaling powerhouse, and this time in a handheld. And if Atari had made a home console version of this, it would have been great. I mean, yeah, the resolution is low, but back then, would that have mattered? I don't know, maybe. Could they have made it do this kind of thing with a higher resolution? I don't know. I wish they had, though. Because Lynx is brilliant. If they'd have had a better screen and better battery life, maybe things would have been different. But whatever, it works. Other things. Okay, Stella. It's an Atari 2600 emulator. You don't need me to show you that. You know what it's like. We get on to the trickier stuff. Trickier in terms of making them work, because these are systems that you would expect to have a keyboard with. So Vice, it will emulate Commodore 64, 64DTV. I haven't actually managed to do anything with that, and I haven't tried any of the others. I might try the PET at some point. But anyway, Commodore 64. It took me a little while to work out how to load games. I'll show you here. I've got a load of tape files. I can, yeah, okay. Auto start image. Now, how to get to where I've put my files? They're on the external SD cards. So you go to the D with the 2 dots, click that, and keep doing that until you get to this one, and then go to media, then go to SD card, then go to at this point it could be entirely different on your SD card, but I put mine in a thing called ROMs. Where are they? I can't see for looking. There, C64 right at the top. I'd gone sailing past it. I tried Donkey Kong one. That had really nice music, but didn't seem to want to load into the game because I was almost certainly doing something wrong. Buggy Boy, that works. The thing with this is it loads like you've actually got the computer and it's loading. Well, you'll see. Overload. It takes as long to load as it does loading from tape because it's emulating. There we go. There will have been some editing there to skip through all of the loading. It took as long to load this as it does to load from tape. Okay. Up and down to accelerate, and I imagine brake. Yeah. Fire button to change gear. Probably my favourite, or one of my favourite Commodore 64 games, because shock horror, I'm not actually a fan of the Commodore 64. I had, back in the 8-bit days, I had an Acorn Electron, but if I was to actually consider what's my favourite 8-bit computer, well, I have two. One is incredibly crap, and it's the Sinclair ZX81, and the other is absolutely great, and it's the Atari 8-bit line of computers. I think I really like them. I wouldn't necessarily say they're better. No, I would. I just think they're better. Yeah. they didn't necessarily have the software support of the Spectrums and Commodores and stuff, but I just love them. Anyway, I do like this. There we go, that's Buggy Boy on Vice. Okay, so if we're going to have a look at that, we're going to have to look at the Spectrum as well. There's only really... I really want to play Ant Attack, but while you have options for which kind of joystick emulation you use, what it doesn't allow you to do is to map keyboard controls to the joystick, which would make Ant Attack playable, because it is a keyboard only game and the keyboard controls are esoteric to say the least, or if I was going to be less polite, shit. But you can't map them to the joystick, so you can't play that, and it's a damned shame. So you know, given that that's how things are, where is the game that I'm looking for? Right there. I've used various different Spectrum emulators over the years on handhelds like this, and some of them are actually really bloody awkward to make the game load. You think it's loaded and then all of a sudden it hasn't. This one is easy. You just whoops, load the game file and bam, you're in there, which is how it really should be. I mean, yeah, it's less authentic in terms of loading times, but who gives a damn about authentic? We're using an emulator, for goodness sake. You should be able to avoid the loading times if you're using an emulator, which is why I find that whole Commodore 64 loading malarkey a bit of a pain in the arse and sort of unnecessary. Anyway, brightness and focus and everything are way off here because it's like high contrast and stuff, and pointing a camera at such things, not good. Which reminds me, I mentioned in the previous video that the HDMI out on here does not work. We have updated the firmware, still doesn't work. Also, I have tested the AV out. Well, it calls it AV, but it also has a headphone socket. The A is a lie. It's just a headphone socket. I plugged an AV lead into that, plugged it into me telly, and it don't do nothing. Diddly squat. Yeah, so that's that. UAE for all. Amiga Emulation. This is another one of those where it's not going to work straight out of the box. You've got to put your kickstart files into the appropriate location. It will tell you where the location is when you try to run it without the kickstart file. It's also got to be named correctly. It will tell you what to name it. But once you've done that, it works. What are we going to... I had to go at it. Okay, yeah. This one's going to take an age to load as well, so we'll just sit that down. Okay then, after much loading, okay. So, Lotus Turbo 2, or Lotus 2, on the Amiga. It's great. Oh, I've got manual gears. I thought I had automatic. Okay, well, that's me right at the back and gonna lose. But I generally do lose on Lotus 1, 2, 3, whatever. I don't play 3. Yeah, so the Amiga emulation works just fine. I think it's only emulating the Amiga 500. I don't think it's making use of hard files. I don't think you can have hard disk on here, which is a shame, though on the Amiga 500, I don't think that matters too much. If it was emulating Amiga 1200, I would definitely want a hard drive emulation feature, but as it is, I kind of don't care. So loading is slow because it's emulating the disk accurately, and by that I mean games can take quite a long while to load, especially if they're like cracked versions, which they're going to be because they're ADF files. There we go, camera has unfocused. So that is UAE for all. That's all the stuff that works well. You will have noticed there's another emulator on here. M64 plus alpha. This is Mupen 64. N64 emulation. I'm gonna load this up just so you can see, well, like all the other ones really, how well it works. The first impressive thing is it works at all. It was kind of surprising, but that tells you all you need to know. You can hear it already. Yeah, okay. Stuttery, stuttery, stuttery. Probably want to... I'm going to kill the sound because firstly it sounds god awful, secondly Nintendo. So it doesn't work with the analog thumbstick. It's not running at full speed. The sound is stuttery as hell. I don't know if you can turn the sound off within the emulator actually. I don't know to what extent it gave control over that kind of thing. It works. It's like, I think it was Retro Rob who was demonstrating it. You wouldn't really play it. It's not... It's interesting to look at and see that it works. And like the 32X, that just needed some tweaking, you know, a bit of optimizing and whatnot, and it went from being not playable to playable. Now I wonder, could they do that with this emulator? Could they make this playable on this piece of hardware? Maybe, I don't know. It would be rather cool if they did. It does make me think this is probably, I don't know if we can even, okay, we can. It is really an impressive piece of hardware. Let me turn the lights on. For a 60 to 80 pound piece of hardware, it is, I think, really surprisingly capable. You know, it's not up there with a medium to high-end Android handheld, but it knocks the socks off of every other open dingux handheld that I've used. It is the nicest of its ilk. There's a word, isn't it? Ilk. It's like some kind of deranged elk. Anyway, so what do I think about it? Having played around with it, installed new firmware, and this firmware is 1.5. I'll give you the link to the site where you can get that. It is possible to get 1.7. It's not on the main site that tends to be used for like distributing these firmwares. There's another site that's got 1.7. I have heard that it was withdrawn from the main site because it was bugged and causing problems. ETA Prime shows you how to install that. There are some benefits to installing that, but if stability is an issue, I won't be using it. I will link you to ETA Prime's video where he shows you how to install this firmware. This video is about showing you what the firmware and emulators are like and can do and perform. What I'm not going to be doing is any kind of tutorial on how to make them work. because I don't want to tell you how to do it and you do it wrong and break it or have all kinds of problems and get frustrated. Please don't ask me how to do it. Actually, I'll tell you what. I'm going to show you a thing. I'll give you the links of where to download stuff. Oh, I always do that. I want Dingux Commander. It's got a nice bright white thing around it, so I think that's the active icon, but it's not. I keep clicking and activating the clock. Yeah, so when you're installing emulators, mostly you want to go do what I just... Can you even see what I just did? Watch on this screen. When you boot up this here Dingux Commander, you will be in User Local Home. Go to the top thing with the two dots, click that, click it again until you get to this. It's like your root folder, if you like. Go to Media, go to SD card, and here you will save from your PC onto your micro SD card. You will save your, is it OPK files. You put them on this SD card, and then you put the SD card into this here handheld. Then in the other window you go to Media, Data, Apps, and you copy from here to there. Or you could do it the other way around, whichever way you like to work. But you basically copy your OPK files into your Media, Data, Apps folder. When you've done that, Y to exit. You're going to ask me, aren't you? How do you copy them across? Highlight the thing, X gives you this menu, and you can do copy or move. I recommend copy, because if you do move, you'll wipe it from the original location, and if you screw it up, you can lose stuff. I've done that. I've lost stuff. I've caused myself all kinds of problems. Anyway, so you put them into the Media, Data, Apps folder, which is putting them onto the internal SD card of this thing. Y to quit. Then when you go to emulators, it will give you these icons. Sometimes you'll need to copy support files. The very first time you run one of these programs, it won't have... It creates a folder in... Where does it create? It creates it here in your root thingamajig. Like the first time I ran Gen Plus, it created that folder and it gives you all of this stuff. You put your BIOS files and all that lot in it. You've got to run it once first to get all these folders. Then you can put your BIOSes in. I do hope all of this makes sense to you. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it might not be the kind of thing for you. And this is the point I really wanted to make when talking about this, what I think of it. I love it. I think it's fantastic. It reminds me of my days with the Amiga, because I probably have as much, if not more fun, messing around with it, trying to make it work, than I actually have playing the games. Geeky, nerdy even, just messing around and grappling with it, and sometimes, you know, it doesn't do what you want it to do and you've got to find ways to make it work. And it's not that there's anything wrong with it, it's just that a lot of the time you don't have any documentations. Someone's gone to a lot of effort of making this software or modifying this software and making it so it works, but they've spent all the time doing the software and no time whatsoever on documentation. So you've got to figure it out for yourself. They've given you what you need, the software. Anything else, you figure it out. Google is your friend sometimes, but not always. That's the thing. If you don't enjoy messing around like that, and the risk that you might just screw it up, because I have had to reinstall this firmware. I screwed it up. I deleted some stuff that I shouldn't have, and certain things stopped working. So I was like, sod it, and just reinstalled. Yeah, it is it's a tinkerer's tool. It's not a Game Boy. It's not a Game Boy Advance. It's not even a Nintendo Switch or PS Vita or anything like that. When it's all fully configured and all the emulators installed and they're configured and optimized and tweaked and running properly, it is wonderful. I've got thousands of games on this thing, literally thousands, more than I'm ever gonna have time to play. But just knowing that they're there on it and working gives me immense satisfaction. Because I like tinkering, I like the challenge of making it work. That, for me, is the appeal of this. Actually playing the games is kind of secondary. But if you're not that kind of person, if you want something that is just going to work out of the box, you understand how to use an emulator, but you're not really into installing them and tweaking them and stuff like that, this thing is probably just fine out of the box. It then is just a question of, do you think that's worth 80 quid? If you like tinkering, then I think it's worth every penny, because it is really quite capable and can do a good bit more than it does out of the box if you tinker with it, and I love it. If I have quibbles about it, and I have no reservations about it, I like it a lot. I have got used to the layout, which I initially didn't like. I've got used to the D-pad. I still don't love it, but I'm used to it. It will be nice when Mupen64 is optimized. I do hope they do that. It will be nice when PSX for all has analog stick compatibility sorted out. Don't care about the rumble, thanks. What it's missing that is on the LDK game, and I really I don't know why it's not on here, is BeebM, the BBC Micro emulator. Why is that not here? Gimme! Want my BBC Micro emulation. I just want to play Starship Command, that's all, and maybe Gala Force. Don't care about the rest, doesn't matter. Just those two games. So, yeah, but obviously that's not a deal breaker. So, I think that covers it, really. I'm just showing you what it can do. I'm really beyond what I've shown you. I'm not telling you how to do it, because some of it is easy, some of it is straightforward. Copy the files into the data apps folder and run it, and it works, and that's that. And some of them take a bit more effort. ETA Prime link to show you how to do it. A couple of other links to show you where to get files from. Figure it out for yourself from there. Please don't ask me how to do things, because I will have forgotten. Complex things like that. I mess around, I fiddle about, I try things, they don't work, I try other things, they work. I do it, it works. Half an hour later I've forgotten what I did. If you ask me how I did it, I couldn't tell you. Okay. Again, big thank you to my supporters on Patreon, without whom I couldn't have bought this and couldn't have brought you this video. So thank you to all of you lot. You know who you are, and your names will be at the end of this video. My apologies, I forgot to put the text thingy on the end of the last one. I did put some text in the description, but I know, it's not the same. Okay, thank you for watching.
It says here, Bedway offers his thanks to those who subscribe to his Patreon account thing. that what he needs?